Alright, hello and welcome to another long-form episode of Empyrion Galactic Survival content. You might have clicked on the thumbnail thinking I have some insight on what's going to be in the DLC besides what you what you've seen in the announcements in the picture. I don't. What I do have insight on is these points that are now on screen, and I am going to be talking on these in a critical thinking way. I'm not going to be making assumptions when well, I'm going to be speculating through a large portion of this, but anytime that I say something that is not speculation, I will be showing a slideshow and supporting my argument via what is on screen. So let's go ahead and get started. If you want to stop here and take a look at the points I'm going to be reviewing here, go ahead and feel free to do that. But I am going to go ahead and dive in and touching on all of these points. Now, a heads up, I have been speaking with a lot of players with a lot of different points of views and trying to balance this all. And before we get started, I want to say thank you to Wolf Shadow for educating me and providing me your vast subject matter expertise at my disposal. It was both eye-opening and informative. Big thanks to Waldonis, Dawn2K7, Admiral Flanker for adding additional points on here and reviewing. Guys, thank you. You absolute legends. Alright. So, first point is potential pitfalls going forward and possible ways of avoiding or mitigating them. So, a key complaint about this game is the learning curve is too steep. Now, we can mitigate this by, well, I mean, we can't really avoid it, but we can avoid it being a problem, being a further problem going forward by acknowledging the problems with it. And how do you acknowledge the problems going forward? Well, you have to provide feedback to the developers in a place that they can see. So you have to go to the Discord. You have to go to the suggestion threads, and you have to go through the motions of clicking some feedback and being specific on your feedback. Now, that is going to help the game immeasurably going forward, because then if there's a progression challenge in the tutorial, if there's a progression challenge or something is wrong with the tutorial, you can give feedback and you can say, oh, this is difficult for me. Is there a guide for this? Is there a fact post? And how can you integrate that fact post into the in-game tutorial? And I'm talking about the dedicated tutorial scenario. Like, you boot up the game, you go to the main menu, you click on that tutorial. I encourage everybody to look at that and provide feedback on it, because that is how people are going to learn this steep learning curve. Alright. Now, the next one is improving the quest system with better hints, where to find stuff, how to activate stuff, and the hints for hidden quests, introductions to the registry, and a introduction to the registry. So I'm going to touch on that registry point first, because, well, it's my prerogative here. So the registry is something that is not great. People don't understand its limitations. People don't understand what it can do and how powerful of a tool, or how crappy of a tool, frankly, it can be. And that's something you need to learn. And I encourage you to, if you know something about the registry, share it with your friends. Watch my video on the registry. I've got 2 videos on the registry, and I'll have more videos perhaps down the line if it comes to that. If I have something I feel like I can add to the already done videos. And improving the quest system with hints and where to find things, how to activate things. That is something that, again, is going to have to be via feedback. Find a problem with, oh, I can't find a certain thing. Okay. Put some feedback. Again, the onus is on you, the player, to give constructive feedback. Okay? player storyline does not have the depth of characters or sense of urgency that is needed to quickly establish an emotional connection with the main character. Now, this is something that I have known about the game for a while now. And it's feedback, because I've done this feedback, but the problem is we don't have excuse me, not we. Elyon does not have a dedicated writer team at the moment to do that is trained in writing this kind of content, and that's in my opinion a detriment to the game. And it is something that hopefully moving forward they can do, and they can get a writer to do this. And I hope they stay true to the game. Well, the lore is always in flux, it seems, but I'm not going to expand on that any, because I can. Now, yeah, I'm going to leave that there before I get myself into trouble, and I'm just going to leave that point there. New players and core free prefab. Can't speak today. Prefabs. Just read the script. Okay. Not the script. I don't have this scripted out. This is just me hitting on points. Nice tangent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment on my tangent. Okay, anyways. New players and core free prefabs. Blah. Blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so as a lot of you know, the game has a tab that says you have prefabs before downloading anything from Steam, and I'm gonna be honest here, a lot of them are kind of shit. And not shit because they're core blueprints. It's just the fact that dedicated builders have not been updating their old prefabs. There are a lot of players that initially presented these prefabs to the game, and this was like 8 years ago. These players aren't around, or they're on their own things. They're on to moving on to their own things. So some of these prefabs have old container boxes instead of cargo extensions. They have just random things wrong with them, like having a ton of RCSs when they don't actually need them because the system was different back then. And I hope going forward that there will be a group of people together that actually work to improve this. And if I may be so bold, I'd like to actually help with that, and I have been helping with that. There are several blueprints in the core system now that I have worked on, and one of them is the Azure Outpost, and it's something that I highly recommend to players because it's very, very simple. It's a lot cheaper. It doesn't have a hanger because the systems have changed. Like, it doesn't have hanger because, well, you don't need a hanger when the game mechanics indicate that you can just dock something to it, and that docked ship cannot be targeted. It's a non-entity, and it can't be damaged as long as it's docked to something with a core. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, yes, a lot of the prefabs need updating. They need to be like, when somebody first joins the game and they see those prefabs and they use the factory, they need to be impressed by those. They need to be impressed by those. They need to know what it is very, very quickly just by looking at it. And I believe that's a tall order, but I believe it's one that the community as a whole can achieve. So, yes. Okay. Next section. What makes this game so unique and irreplaceable? How can staying true to this game as developers, I'm speaking to developers now, how can staying true to this game keep the game relevant? Okay, that's a mouthful. I acknowledge that, and that's probably not perfect way of phrasing that, but I'm not gonna have Grammarly write my bullet points for this. I've been relying a little bit too heavily on Grammarly, and yeah. Anyways, we are 9 minutes in. If you have made it to this point, please leave a comment. Let me know you've made it to this point so I can see. And let me know what you think so far. Or if you have another comment, please add it. Okay. Oh, I skipped a point. My bad. No, I didn't. I just didn't have a point that was up there. Okay. This point is not on the main thing, but I believe it is relevant here, and it's something that I apologize. It was a mistake on my end. What could we expect going forward based on what we have seen in the official Discord? Now, I'm not going to be touching on all the other sources, quote unquote here, all the other secondary and tertiary sources of information that's quote unquote say they've spoken with developers or they've spoken with the founders or I know a guy that knows something. I'm not going to be touching on any of that. I'm sorry. I'm not given that air. So anyways, let's go ahead and get the first one started. So this, sorry, that was my bad. This is a message that was out yesterday, or that was out I think a couple of days ago. I think this was like Saturday or Sunday. And it was a conversation that we had in the official Discord, and Talon just answered this right then and there. So I'm going to pull this up on my screen because it's really small. And I'm going to touch on this because it's very important here. Everything in the DLC, this is from Talon, everything in the DLC is coded specifically around the DLC to make it work in the regular game. This will take time. I'm going to let you go ahead and pause the video and read the rest of that. Done that? Okay, let's move on. So, I had responded with something, and it was to find what could be backported to the main game. Now, why did I say that? And what was I thinking then and there? Because this is a primary source. This is me and what I was thinking then. I was asking that, if it's not already clear, because I want to know what kind of content we can expect from the DLC to come to the main game later on. We saw this with Subnautica, and like some of the, like the original Subnautica game was standalone, and it had a bunch of wonderful things. And then they added like Below Zero, and then they added some of the things from Below Zero to the original game, like the big rooms, which I thought they were very smart about that. And so that's what I'm hoping to see here is like they add some of the things from the DLC to the main game once they know that it's going to work in the main game. And a lot of people have been giving them a lot of flack for being like, oh, this is completely separate, this is gonna break our DLCs. No, excuse me, not DLCs, but our scenarios. No, that's not on them. Well, at least not on them in the sense that each scenario creator, Raving, Vermilion, I can't remember the guy from Star Salvage. I'm sorry, brain fart here. The onus is on them whether they want to add the DLC content to their scenarios, and in doing that, thus blocking off players that don't have the money or the will to buy the DLC from playing their content. And this was outlined in this post, which you saw in the previous video. Okay. So I'm not going to go into that any more than that. And that is, how does this DLC affect custom scenarios? That's how it affects custom scenarios. Alright? It's as simple and clean cut as that. I mean, nothing's ever simple, but it is what it is. And I showed you the responses. And these are primary source responses. So if you don't like them, tough fish sticks. Got it? Okay, let's move on. There was an article that I was originally going to touch on from Funcom, and I'm not actually going to touch on it because, again, it's not a primary source, and it appears there's some miscommunication on the back end and some people spouting their mouths off. So since it's not endorsed by the developers and it doesn't really have anything that I feel is relevant, I'm not going to touch on it here. I don't like it, but I will put my response here. I will quote one of my own responses in one of the Discords. Just give me a minute to bring that up. And I am not going to show this on screen because it's just yeah, it's not great. But I will quote myself here. Give me a second. Discord. Okay, here it is. I don't trust journalists. What I'm saying here is my own personal opinion, and is why I do what I do. So take it with a grain of salt, take it with a bucket of salt, depending on what you think it is. I don't trust journalists. I trust tangible announcement posts. I trust that I can talk to staff at the company, and I'm talking about Elyon here, and get clarifications when I am confused or don't understand something. I saw one thing that seemed off in the original DLC announcement, and that's in the picture that I will show in a second. They contradicted themselves down below the yellow portion of this, and if you're familiar with the game, you'll understand why they contradicted themselves, and I'll touch on that in a second. It turns out it was a small typo left over from the preliminary draft of the announcement. At least that's what I'm assuming here. And it got through, as stuff does. And this is how conspiracy theories start, is something gets through that was in a draft that was later fact-checked and then said, no, that's not real, but it was accidentally left in because somebody was in a hurry. Come on, guys. Don't read too much into things. Well, you're going to anyway, so why am I touching on this? Well, the reason is, there it said something to the effect, because I can't read this because it's small print and I don't want to bring it up, that you will be able to migrate your character over to the new DLC. You know, that's actually true in a sense, in a broader sense, and I'm gonna go and put my tinfoil hat on here. No, not really. I don't have a tinfoil hat, and I'm not actually putting my tinfoil hat on here. But in the sense that your character ID is tied to your Steam ID. So as long as you have a Steam account, which is required for this game, at the moment anyways, that character is transferable, and its customizations are transferable over to any DLC you buy. So yes, in that sense. But a new character that you have to level up and put skill points into is required for the DLC. And this was a little bit of an oversight, or it just wasn't clarified properly, or it was something, and it got through. So, yeah. Anyways, on to the next point. Will we ever get the ability to walk on ships? I'm going to poke your lead balloon here, and I'm going to say, frack no! Come on, guys, stop asking this question. Come on, stop asking this question. Essentially, when you guys are asking this, you don't really understand that it's going to take 2 years. I'm not kidding here. It's going to take 2 years of their dedicated development time to just creating walking on ships. It's going to be janky. We all know that they're not perfect. Heck, they're not even good at times. They're not good with certain things because it's outside of their skill sets. I'm saying things like small things like I probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm sticking to it because I said it. They're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We have blind spots in our ability to do any task daily. Do you know how your phone works? I mean, do you know how to actually create a phone, get the resources for it, and put it together? It's probably a oversimplification, but it gets the point across. Nobody knows everything on a given subject. That's why we work together. That's why there are teams. This is why there are development companies that have multiple people. All right, just no. Anyways, and then ultimately the benefit of walking on your ship is a few minutes of, oh cool, I can walk around and actually interact with the constructors that I can already interact with the P menu. Yeah, no, no, and that's gonna wear off within like a week, just like Crouch wore off within a week. I mean, sure, it's a part of the game, but we don't swoon over it all the time. And, and that was actually probably a lot easier to implement than walking on ships. So, just no, stop, please. It's just like, do you want them to focus on that, or do you want to focus on them to focus on everything else that they need to focus on? And, yeah. Anyways, a great rant there. Now I have a question for you, all. Does Vanessa have a degree in marketing? Um, Vanessa, my crew member, yeah, yeah, she does the GI marketing. Yeah, no, she does not have a degree in marketing yet. I'm going to be getting a degree in marketing. I don't know. How can you give an NPC a degree in marketing? Anyways, that was a little interlude to the mid-roll like and subscribe plug. You're probably not gonna like this. You're probably not gonna agree with it. You're probably gonna hate it. Leave your comments down below for whatever that like and subscribe plug was worth. All right, just yeah. Anyways, or smash that dislike button. I don't care. Okay. So we're gonna go back to that original point before I realized I missed one. What makes this game so unique? Why is it so? Why do we play it so much? I've been talking with a lot of my friends on this, and one point has become clear over the past couple of days. This game is essentially Legos in space. You have the ability to basically put Legos together to create what you want, and then, or blocks in this case, together to create what you want, and then you go off on adventures in the wider galaxy that you can actually just warp to anywhere you want to. There are endless stories out there based on you getting your ship blown up. Or you finding something that you have to take a screenshot, or whatever. Just like, it's playing with friends, making stories along the way. Yeah. That's the reason I love it. Then there's the workshop. Now, say what you want about the workshop. Some people like it, some people hate it, some people think it's owned by or it's controlled by a bunch of elites. It is what it is to whoever. It is to the person what it is to the person. To new players, it's a valuable source of new things, to new shiny toys. To older players, it's a way to share what you've built. And to people like me, it's a way to connect with people who like what I do. Simple or as complicated as that. Alright, play how you want. Become a trader, a salvager, a builder, a resource farmer, a hoarder, or a mix of all of them. You don't just do one thing in this game. You can scratch that itch of wanting to be a logistics manager and micromanage to get the most credits. You can go forth and just kill the biggest ship as quickly as possible so that you can get the quantums. You can get the quantums and then give them to your buddies because they don't know how to do it. You can salvage ships to your heart's content. And you don't have to specifically go down any of those routes. you can very heavily invest in any of those routes, or you can just play them all. It doesn't matter. It will still get you satisfaction, and it will get you what you need. So, yeah. The galaxy is alive. Yes, it is in a very real sense. And the reason I say this is because every new system you go to, you have an opportunity to explore. You have NPCs to talk with, mind you, limited dialogue, but or you can be like me and just randomly talk to an NPC with no dialogue and have people look at you like you're crazy. The ability to contribute to the base game in meaningful ways. This is something that a lot of us are familiar with. Anybody can submit a new enemy ship or a new enemy base or dungeon or something, as long as they follow the criteria of how to submit that, and then they can have it added. That's where else do you get that? Huh? Where else can some random person buy the game, go into creative, take some time, take a couple hours to put something together, and then submit it, and then have people run it? Okay, maybe it's more than just a few hours, but you get my point. Yeah. Dungeon crawls to space combat. You can be a planet-side first-person shooter, taking on whatever POI you want, point of interest you want, or you can focus on space combat. You can live in space, or you can live on a planet. You can, yeah, it's just a little bit of something for everybody in this genre, and I don't think any other game has that. Then there's the point of PvE and PvP. Again, this is on server owners to set up and create the community how they want, but they can do it. They can have like a PvP system that nobody visits, like the Spanish community, or they can be like HWS, where there is an actual reason to go to the PvP system and fight for dominance and keep a base on the PvP planet, and have an entire faction back you up to keep that base on the PvP planet and make sure everybody else is kicked off. Or not kicked off, but, like, can't have a foothold there. I guess that is kicking off. There is a giant Dyson sphere kind of looking, okay, not Dyson sphere, but a giant golden orb where you can get gold every day, and yeah. So there are different communities, different perks to these communities. Some communities have microtransactions like HWS. Some of the communities, you just pay a $2 fee to get access to the server. Some communities are free to play, but there's no resource regeneration, and so everybody ends up fighting over resources, and major faction conglomerates end up digging over other players. I mean, it is what you want. How did I get to that from PvE to PvP? I don't know. Who knows? Let's move on. Okay, so now it is probably the portion you want to skip to. Potential good indicators to watch out for going forward. More blocks and, well, more ships to create and more combinations of interesting things to make. Now, we're already getting some of that, but what I'm specifically touching on here is that we get more blocks in the base game. Yes. Okay, there's that. That's a good indicator going forward. And I would even argue that just the announcement in the DLC that we're getting more blocks is a good indicator. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Weapons feel like pea shooters, and a complete overhaul and expansion on weapons is needed in the base game. Having that addressed in a meaningful way, yes, that would be great. And do I know more about this than I'm letting on? Absolutely yes. Don't ask me, because I'm not going to tell you. Good luck. A heavier focus on critical game bugs. Okay, now this sounds simple, right? This is complicated. Critical game bugs are, well, they're critical. They're not going to crash your game and prevent you from playing completely, but they are going to harm the experience. And that's not good. That is not good at all. there's a fuel bug, which I have touched on in the bug report video, so I'm not going to touch on that again. But needless to say, that is a bug that needs to be fixed, and it turns out it was a multifaceted bug. It turns out it wasn't just one thing, it was two things working together to obscure each other and make bug reporting completely, well, not completely, but almost completely impossible. And they got one part of it sorted, which nobody ever talks about because it dampens the whole narrative. Oh, the fuel bug is still here. Oh, the fuel bug is horrible. It is horrible, but it's already been partially fixed. So shush you. Learn to read. And yes, I am very sore on that subject. I am very sore that it has not been made a priority and fixed before the DLC. I am sore about that personally. And do I think that's a detriment to the community? Yes, the frick I do. But is there a bug report for it? Has it been acknowledged, and is there reproduction steps? Yes. Maybe. Yes. There's another critical bug, such as like desync. Sometimes when you're fighting enemy OPVs, aka enemy ships, NPC enemy ships, you sometimes have your turrets just shooting into the random point in air, and or you have an enemy ship flippy McFlippykins, like you saw on the Aurora, or excuse me, on the Hijara versus Tovera video. And both of those bugs are pretty bad, and there are bug reports for them, but I haven't checked the status on them recently. I probably should have before this video, but it didn't occur to me to do so. Continuing to improve the base game. So continuing to improve the base game is something that they have been working on and they have been focusing on for a while now. There is still a long road ahead, i.e. improving tutorials, softening the curve, the learning curve, making sure that resources for a particular FAQ topic are in game, which is something that they should do. There should be links in the PDA that link to Discord posts, that link to the FAQ posts or the frequently asked question posts. And I will suggest that after this video, providing I remember. Continuing the focus in some capacity of keeping the player early on. And again, this is another touchstone of drawing the player in, and we've talked about these in the first section, where its character does not immediately have an emotional connection, thus having a hook to the main character. The quest feels kind of slow in the base game, if I'm honest, and the writing is not engaging, and that needs to be touched on. I don't know when that's going to be touched on. I thought about doing it myself and then just submitting it, but I've got so much to do that I'm not really sure if I'm the person for that, to be honest. Like, if I can help there, I will, but it's also on you. The onus is also on you, the player, to assist and point out these things in a constructive and positive and provide solutions. It's like that old saying, don't bitch about a problem if you're not going to pitch a solution, or at least a possible solution. That's what I live by when I deal with the developers. Is I'm not going to bitch about something unless I have an actual possible solution. All right? That's what makes me successful in some ways. Okay, reducing the steep learning. Yeah, we already touched on that. Backporting what works from the DLC promptly. That needs to be addressed, and it needs to be done promptly for it to be a good indicator. And I might have strayed away from that a little bit. Updating and improving the registry system as a whole. So I'm going to go ahead and expand on this and list out some of the potential problems of the registry. So, as some of you are aware, or not aware, as the case may be, the database is a single write database. Now, I'm not going to go any further into that. because that is just a whole can of worms that I have my own personal feelings that are not conducive to this video right now. So yeah, that's a major problem with the game, and in fact I think that's a problem with in fact I think it's a problem with like 90% of the bugs is single write database. Probably more than 90%. And yeah, it's not great. And that needs to be fixed. But the registry, as you know, having a search, or as you may not know, having a search function would make that 10,000 times worse because you're having a whole bunch of writes to the database and a whole bunch of reads from the database. And just doing a simple search of the galaxy for something, like Tovaris, for example, is going to make the experience horrible. And every player on the server is going to be stuck every time the registry searches for that. And we had a preview of this back when the teleporter system was causing hangups. And this had to be mitigated by spreading planets apart in the actual galaxy creation and lowering the amount of teleporters in the world. So on POIs, some POIs had to have their teleporters removed because they just didn't need a reason for having a teleporter. The teleport range had to be lowered, and I experienced this on HWS. So Rexus did a great job of mitigating this on his own, on his side, as well as Ravine and Vermilion made the galaxy a little bit more spread out as a result, and adjusted the warp drive ranges as a result. And that was a preview to how bad the registry could get, and yeah. So yeah, it's just yeah. Anyways, now bad indicators to watch out for. If critical bugs are not addressed promptly and made a top priority, how can they support a full-blown DLC? I'm just gonna let that comment hang because it is solid as itself. And I'm trying to be critical here. I'm trying to look at it from both sides. How? Yeah, that's 100% true. I try and put an optimistic spin on all my videos, but I can't put an optimistic spin on that. I can't. I simply can't. Increased reliance on DLC, or this is me speculating, by the way. I forgot to say that. This whole section is me speculating and seeing issues and how they could be mitigated, fixed. Yeah. Anything beside an actual slide, me reviewing a slide, is me speculating and adding my commentary. I forgot to add that, but anyways, better late than never. Increased reliance on DLCs or announcing more DLCs after the first one that goes live. That's, to me, a bad indicator because they need time. They need time to iron out the first DLC before and get it to a playable, stable state before they announce any other DLCs. Otherwise, that's just going to erode confidence really, really quickly. And then the content of those DLCs. Are they going to be another Dark Faction DLC where you have something completely new to play with, new blocks, new storylines, new separate storyline, etc., etc.? Or are you going to follow the business model of Ark, where each new map adds a section of the story? Or are you going to follow the microtransaction? We're going to give you cosmetics. We're going to give you just another map, but it's going to be composed of everything that we know already. Okay, yeah, that. So the content will be an indicator, both good and bad. Yeah. Fluff DLCs and in-game microtransactions. Now, we all have our own opinions on Funcom. I'm not even going to touch on those. But if we see fluff DLCs that don't add anything to the game and just are just pure cash grabs, then that's the time to just pack it in. Arguably, the other points are times to pack it in, and just walk away, or at the very least, just stop giving them money. And I'm not going to speculate on my personal pressure point on this because I just don't know. But I suspect it's one of these points that will be my pressure point. In-game microtransactions. Yeah, if I see those, I'm bailing. Screw it. Bailing. I don't see that going forward. And the reason I don't see that going forward is because, like, I see a lot of other potential pitfalls in this game, but I don't see microtransactions at this point in time. Now, I may have to change my tune later down the line, but I highly doubt that I will. So, yeah. Anyways, that's it for this. I have some acknowledgments. I'm gonna say again, thank you to Wolf Shadow for educating me and putting his vast subject matter and expertise at my disposal. It was a tough conversation. A lot of things that I didn't want to hear, but I needed to hear. And if I hadn't had that conversation with him, I wouldn't have been able to make this script in a meaningful way. Big thanks to Waldonis, Don2K7, Admiral Flanker for being quick on the draw when I sent them the script for this and adding some thoughts and additions to this. A lot of the points I touched on, some of the points I touched on here, I'm just gonna say a lot of the points I touched on here are because I chatted with them about them at some point in time, or even when I sent them the script, they added more that I didn't think about. A big shout out to all the people that do bug reports for this game and take the time out of their day and their play to help make this game better. They are the real unsung heroes. And quick shout out to all of you that do this. Thank you. I can't say thank you enough. I wouldn't be doing this video, this game, I wouldn't still be on this game if I didn't see all you guys helping out. I wouldn't be able to be optimistic if I didn't see all you guys helping out in the background. So, thank you. And, as always, remember to be kind to your fellow humans. Remember that you're not perfect. And that you need to continue to try and be better every day. Well, you don't need to. Well, you need to, but you don't have to. But that's up on the onus is on you for that. But I will continue to try and be better. And thank you. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I feel dirty for saying that because this is a video. This is a public service video. But yeah, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if there's something that I missed in this, and hopefully I'll be able to touch on it later. Feel free to come and debate topics with me as long as you're respectful. And as long as you're respectful, I welcome you come to provide me your subject matter, provide me your expertise, provide me what you know, provide me examples, provide me with whatever you can do to help. I have a Patreon, but to be honest, the Patreon is just wonderful. It gives you access to some extra stuff, but the true value that I get from this is talking with people who want to share and want to make this game better as a whole. And I wouldn't be doing this without those people. And thank you. Alright, I'm getting all mushy. Have a good day. Banshee out.